The history of the United States of America is the story of a land shaped by ancient civilizations, explored by foreign powers, built through struggle and ambition, tested by war and division, and transformed into one of the most influential nations in the modern world. Long before the name America existed, the land was home to diverse Native American societies who lived, governed, traded, and thrived across vast territories for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence shows that the first people arrived in North America more than 15,000 years ago, migrating across a land bridge from Asia during the last ice age. Over time, these early inhabitants formed complex cultures adapted to their environments. In the Southwest, societies such as the ancestral Puebloans built advanced stone cities and irrigation systems. In the Mississippi Valley, mound-building civilizations like the Mississippian culture created large urban centers such as Cahokia. Along the coasts and plains, countless tribes developed unique languages, beliefs, and traditions. These civilizations had deep connections to nature and complex systems of governance long before European arrival. The course of American history changed dramatically in the late 15th century when European explorers began crossing the Atlantic. In 1492, Christopher Columbus's voyage opened the door to sustained contact between Europe and the Americas. Spanish explorers soon arrived, claiming vast territories, spreading Christianity, and establishing colonies in Florida, the Southwest, and California. The Spanish introduced horses, new crops, and diseases that devastated native populations, permanently altering the continent's demographic and cultural landscape. Other European powers followed. The French explored the Mississippi River and established trading networks with native tribes, while the Dutch founded New Amsterdam, later renamed New York. The English eventually became the dominant colonial force, establishing settlements along the Atlantic coast. In 1607, Jamestown became the first permanent English colony in North America. Though plagued by starvation and conflict, it survived due to tobacco farming and trade. In 1620, the Pilgrims arrived aboard the Mayflower, seeking religious freedom. They established Plymouth Colony and signed the Mayflower Compact, an early form of self-government. Over the next century, 13 English colonies developed, each with distinct economies and cultures. New England focused on trade and small farms. The middle colonies became commercial centers, and the southern colonies relied heavily on plantation agriculture. Slavery became central to the colonial economy, particularly in the South. Enslaved Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic in brutal conditions and compelled to work on plantations producing tobacco, rice, and later cotton. Slavery shaped American society in profound and tragic ways, creating racial hierarchies and moral conflicts that would haunt the nation for centuries. As the colonies grew, so did tensions with Britain. Colonists began to resent heavy taxation and lack of political representation. Slogans like "No taxation without representation" captured widespread frustration. Events such as the Boston Massacre and the Boston Tea Party intensified conflict. Britain responded with harsh measures, further alienating the colonists. In 1775, armed conflict broke out between colonial militias and British troops, marking the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. In 1776, the colonies declared independence. The Declaration of Independence, primarily written by Thomas Jefferson, asserted that all men were created equal and possessed natural rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These revolutionary ideas challenged monarchy and inspired future democratic movements worldwide. After years of hardship, the colonies secured victory with help from France. In 1783, Britain officially recognized American independence. The newly formed nation faced the challenge of building a stable government. The Articles of Confederation proved too weak, leading to the drafting of the United States Constitution in 1787. The Constitution established a federal system with checks and balances among three branches of government. The Bill of Rights was added to protect individual freedoms. The early republic expanded rapidly under leaders like George Washington, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. The nation strengthened its institutions and expanded westward. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase doubled the country's size. Westward expansion fueled economic growth but came at great cost to Native Americans, who were forcibly removed from their lands through policies like the Indian Removal Act. The Trail of Tears stands as one of the darkest chapters in American history. As the nation grew, divisions deepened over slavery. Northern states gradually abolished it, while southern states depended on enslaved labor. These tensions exploded in 1861 when southern states seceded, forming the Confederate States of America. The Civil War became the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history. President Abraham Lincoln framed the war as a fight to preserve the Union and end slavery. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation declared enslaved people in Confederate states free. The Union's victory in 1865 preserved the nation and ended slavery through the 13th Amendment. However, the period of Reconstruction that followed was marked by struggle. While African Americans gained citizenship and voting rights, violent resistance and discriminatory laws limited progress. Reconstruction ended in the late 19th century, giving rise to segregation and racial injustice that persisted for generations. The late 1800s and early 1900s saw rapid industrialization. Railroads connected the nation. Factories transformed cities, and millions of immigrants arrived seeking opportunity. While industrial growth created wealth, it also produced harsh working conditions and deep inequality. Reform movements emerged, leading to labor laws, women's suffrage, and progressive reforms. In 1917, the United States entered World War I, marking its emergence as a global power. After the war, the country experienced cultural change and economic growth during the 1920s, followed by the devastating Great Depression. The stock market crash of 1929 led to massive unemployment and hardship. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal introduced government programs to provide relief, reform, and recovery. World War II transformed America. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the nation mobilized for total war. The U.S. played a crucial role in defeating Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. The war ended with the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ushering in the nuclear age. After the war, the United States emerged as a superpower. The Cold War defined the second half of the 20th century. The U.S. and the Soviet Union competed for global influence, leading to proxy wars, arms races, and ideological conflict. Domestically, fear of communism fueled political repression. Abroad, conflicts in Korea and Vietnam tested America's resolve and sparked protest at home. The civil rights movement reshaped the nation during the 1950s and 1960s. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. challenged segregation and racial injustice through nonviolent protest. Landmark legislation outlawed discrimination and protected voting rights, advancing the promise of equality. Though the struggle continued, the late 20th century brought technological innovation, economic change, and shifting global dynamics. The end of the Cold War left the U.S. as the world's dominant power. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, profoundly altered national security and foreign policy, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. In the 21st century, the United States has faced new challenges, including political polarization, economic inequality, pandemics, and climate change. Yet it remains a nation defined by constant reinvention. Its history is marked by ideals of freedom and democracy, often tested but never abandoned. The story of the United States is not a simple tale of triumph or failure. It is a complex journey of hope, conflict, resilience, and transformation. From ancient native civilizations to a modern global power, America's history reflects humanity's enduring struggle to build a more just and meaningful society.